for them. Hugh, let me do the listening audience a little favor here and just give you a quick blurb as to who you are, what you're doing, and what we're about to talk about. Hugh Shine is a retired United States Army colonel, financial advisor, and politician. He's a Republican member of the Texas House of Representatives representing the 55th District. And he was previously served 2 terms in the Texas House of Representatives from 1986 to 1990. And Hugh, you were flying Blackhawks, weren't you?
Well, I started flying Hueys, and yes, I did advance the Blackhawks and also flew the Apache.
Oh, that's great. I remember some nice conversations in your office about those helicopters. I mean, I've always had an affection for helicopters. When I was at Fort Irwin, I'd always go to the airfield and listen to them come in. I could tell what was flying in based on their blade whopping sound, So anyway, Hugh, I asked you to come on because I was looking at the governor's plan to address school safety in Texas. And I know you're an extremely busy man, and I'm sure you got a general overview of what his plan is. And I thought we'd just talk about it, and you can give us some information to the best of your knowledge on certain aspects of it. And I had sent you a couple notes that I had, so I figured we'd go off some of those notes and maybe a couple others off the plan that I actually saw. But before we do that, do you have any comment that you want to start off with that, and we can go from there?
Well, let me just say in starting, the governor's issued, in a press conference, issued proposal outlining a lot of different things. We as members of the House are studying some of those things, and what I intend to do is kind of share as much as I can with listeners of what the details are, not in any way, endorsing any of those measures at the moment, but certainly looking at those measures. I do know there's one measure that I think is an underlying theme that definitely needs to be addressed, and that's the one of regarding mental health. And I think that may be one of the most important issues, which is included in the governor's plan, that could actually help our schools and help bring some insight into treating the problem rather than symptoms in the process.
Okay, just to clarify something, because I'm getting a little confused now. This is the plan that is proposed, or it's actually going to happen? Can you clarify that one aspect first?
It's a plan proposed by the governor. The legislature is not in session. The governor has no authority by executive order to implement anything that could possibly be a statutory change.
Well, based on
there may be some provisions he might be able to implement, but if it requires statutory, the legislature actually has to be in session.
Well, based on what I read, it said he wanted to implement, especially for Santa Fe, the things to have before the school year started again. So is there any chance that can come into play before the school year starts, or when does the session get back into play?
Say that again. He did what for Santa Fe?
He specifically said he would like certain things to happen before Santa Fe opens back up. So,
yeah. Well, one of the things that is already out there, and I supported a bill that we had in the legislature that dealt with marshals, and that was House Bill 867. And what one of the plans is.
You're breaking up, Hugh. You're breaking up. Stay on the mic.
The training aspect of those, the marshal has to take an 80-hour course, generally do it at their own expense. But we broadened that from public schools to include private schools, and also lowered the number of students in the school that they would have the opportunity to have marshals on their school grounds. That's one of the things. That's one of the first things that the governor talked about in his proposal.
Yeah, I was noticing that. I was going to break down his proposal in a few different segments. It was basically like, this is what we can do before something happens. This is what we should do when it happens. And here's what we can do to harden up the place to maybe prevent it from happening at all. And you had mentioned one thing there about the mental aspect of it. It's like, what actually is the mental problem, in your opinion, Hugh? What's going on here?
Well, I don't know what the actual problem is, but I can tell you that school counselors are not trained or certified as healthcare professionals to be able to diagnose students from a mental health perspective, and that's one of the pieces in the governor's proposal. I'll say this too: in talking with our school superintendents and principals in our schools in Bell County, they all concur that the mental health side of the proposal is probably one of the most important pieces, and I would have to agree that is a very important piece too, because that actually, in my opinion, treats the problem, or not necessarily treats the problem, it addresses the problem, and some of the other things that are in the proposal basically are addressing symptoms of the underlying problem.
Would you say culture and mental health problems go hand in hand? Because I've got an article here from thefederalist.com,
Yeah.
and I read it, and I really dig the article because it's how I'm thinking. It's basically saying it's not the gun that's the problem; it's the culture, the upbringing, the medicines, the media, the liberal thought processes, the looseness. Would you say anything to that? Agree? Not agree?
I would have to say that certainly needs to be considered as a contributory aspect of the problem that we're dealing with. I think everything needs to be on the table. I don't think there's anything out there from a cultural standpoint to personal to the core family unit, from our spiritual relationships we have in our society. All those things, I think, are all on the table that could have some impact in regards to the underlying problem.
Hugh, I was looking on the website, the Texas.gov website, and they got Governor Abbott's plan here with an opening paragraph. I want to read it and then make a comment on one point of it and see what you think about it. It says here, Governor Greg Abbott today joined state and local leaders to unveil his school and firearm safety action plan. And the reason I'm reading this, I want everybody to know what we're talking about. The governor's plan contains 40 recommendations and includes proposals that call for increasing law enforcement presence at school, strengthening existing campus security programs, enhancing firearm safety, providing mental health evaluation, and that identifies students at risk of harming others, and much more. Now, with that comment, I want to go to one thing that is said in here that I raise a question about. It says, in addition to the actions that Governor Abbott is taking today, he will also ask Texas Senate and House leaders to issue an interim charge to consider the merits of adopting a red flag law allowing law enforcement, a family member, school employee, or a district attorney to file a petition seeking the removal of firearms from a potentially dangerous person only after legal process is duly provided. Are you familiar with that one, and how do you like that if you are?
Yeah, I've had many discussions with folks about that. The red flag issue. You know, it's going to be very controversial, and the problem you have implementing something like that is how it will grow.
Exactly.
Okay? I think protecting our individual rights is critical. It's one of the most important things I think we as Americans have as part of our freedoms, and that's going to be extremely controversial. You're going to have those who advocate gun control who are going to embrace that in its entirety and want to take it a step further. You'll also have those who feel, as I just described, of not wanting to infringe on their Second Amendment rights or anything else, who are going to be opposed to making any changes. It will just continue to add controversy to the debate, and I don't think it's going to resolve anything. I'm really of the opinion that if we can get healthcare professionals or get counselors in our schools with the training they need to be able to, I know this is a bad word, but maybe to profile some students based on healthcare evaluations.
Well, it's not a bad word on this radio station.
Well, I understand, but it is in the secular society, okay, in many ways. That if our counselors in our schools have certifications to be able to know and understand mental health issues as it relates to students, and have the possibility of being able to profile maybe some of those students from that standpoint, I think that addresses the underlying problem that we're talking about and dealing with. I'm not going to say it's going to solve it at all, because this is a very complex issue, because it's very societal, just like you just mentioned a moment ago, cultural, spiritual, it's all the above. And there's not going to be any single easy answer to resolving this. But I believe the first start is getting into our schools with certifications and for mental health evaluations, and that will be, I think, foremost. Now, let me say this: as far as the issue of arming individuals in the schools, school boards already have that authority. School boards can approve arming teachers and administrators on their campuses if they so choose, and we do have some schools in Texas that have actually done that.
Yeah, but
and,
Trey, I'm sorry,
so
Hugh.
There have been some other things that have been done.
Hugh, when I hear that, that's cool, but it's also a joke, and I'll tell you why.
I understand.
They're not doing what it takes. It takes a sheepdog to take care of the sheep. It doesn't take a person who has got in their hearts.
I agree.
And so, I mean, it's fantastic, but we got to do something more. Now, what I'd like to do, Hugh, because it's just perfect, you set it up perfect here, and I want to read this so people can hear this. I got this off the Federalist.com again, but it kind of explains what I think, and maybe you'll believe or think the same thing. It says, before the 1960s, there was almost no mass shooting incidents in the United States, but the trend has increased ever since then. Why? The number of homicides have decreased, and the number of households that had guns also dropped significantly. There must be another cause. Maybe the continual focus on the tool used by these killers is less important than the emotional imbalance that leads to them pulling the trigger. And this is the paragraph I want to read. A major change since the 1960s has been the rise in liberal social policies and the destruction of time-honored values that lead to societal success and stability. The most glaring example is the massive decline in two-parent households. From 1960 to 2014, the percentage of children living in a home with two parents and no divorces dropped from 73% to 46%. That number is stunningly lower for the black children, now at 22%. I think that's got a lot to do with it.
I think it's got an enormous amount to do with it. That's why I mentioned it's societal, it's cultural, it's all part of what's going on in this country. We're taking discipline out of the schools. Our family units are deteriorating. You have liberal causes out there that are in the minority that are destroying the core family unit. I think I think those are the attacks that have taken place in our society that have probably helped lead to this. Again, those aren't the only things.
No, sure, no.
But I think that social media is part of it. I think I guess the virtual reality stuff that's out there. In fact, there is an app that is just appalling that was created. That's a school shooter app that I heard about this past week or so. I mean, stuff like that should never even be allowed to happen. And I know it's all done under the freedom of the freedoms,
Yeah, but we don't scream fire in a theater. We don't scream hijack on an aircraft. It's just common sense.
Exactly.
Hugh,
if we can restore the family unit and discipline in our schools, that, I think, also treats the underlying problem.
Well, let me ask you this. I know you're an optimist, okay? But let's talk realist for a second. Do you think we've passed the point of no return when it comes to getting this country back the way it used to be, in the sense of honor, respect, dignity for one another, family upbringings, things of that nature? Or are we past that point? Because I look at it and I say there are definitely elements and blocks that maintain it, but we're slowly sinking with the rest of society the way it's so loose and crazy.
Well, Matt, let me just say I'm going to give you a quote from Winston Churchill.
Okay.
Back in World War II, when England was being attacked in the air by the Germans. We should never, 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 never surrender. The values, the principles, the values, and the virtues that have made this country so great. And it's going to take leadership. It's going to take men and women who are willing to put their political lives on the line and go out there and say, enough is enough. We've got to restore principles, values, and virtues. We've got to restore dignity, integrity, and respect. And it's got to be in our families, in our homes. It's got to be in our schools, and it's got to be in our society.
Hey, Hugh, I've got retired police chief Randy Dixon here. I'd like to ask a question. You okay with that?
Sure, of course. Hi, Randy.
Hey, how you doing? Hey, got one quick question for you. Do you ever see the day that where it will be legislatively mandated? And I know it's on the books now where an ISD can do it if they want to. Do you think it'll be mandated where they'll be required, especially like one that's got a little bit of a larger base of students, to have a internal police department within that school district?
Oh, Randy, I think you're going to have some folks that might attempt to do that. I think your educators and your folks that are in the public school administration side of it are probably going to oppose that. I think it's premature to kind of give an opinion of where that might go. But I can tell you, after talking to all of my school administrators in Bell County and some of my colleagues in the legislature, that debate is going to take place. I'm just not sure what the outcome is going to be.
Hugh, I've got another point that was on the governor's plan here. I'd like to see your opinion on it. It says, making schools safer, immediately increase law enforcement presence at schools. And then it says here, prioritizing hiring retired peace officers, specifically police, sheriffs, and constables, and military veterans for school security. I'm more focused on the military veteran at the moment because I look at a police officer, a deputy, a sheriff like that, and they most likely just got out of what they were doing and they're looking to do something else. Whereas retired military can be a long spectrum of time. I mean, I've been out of the military for quite a long time, but I'm pretty much on top of my game. I mean, I could be utilized as ex-military for securing a place free of charge just because I have a love and interest. But I remember a story where somebody tried to do that and they got criticized. We don't want this guy around. What do you see? Do you see that as a viable way to help secure schools by getting people who are prior military to pull security?
Well, I can tell you that is part of the discussion as well of all these other things that we're talking about and what you're asking about. And there are some veteran groups out there that are proposing that. I think it's too early to say if that's an alternative or not, because right now I think you've got those in the education sector with our public schools who are adamantly opposed to bringing any firearms on the campus. And I think that you have that debate that's going to continue, and I don't see any of those things gaining any ground or gaining any strength in the short run. I think it's going to take a lot of discussion, debate by members to determine and to see where the chips fall on that.
Yeah, I get this.
Again, I think it's just too early to determine if that's going to have any impact.
I get this potential concept idea of micromanagement, and I'll tell you why I say that. Another part of the governor's plan, train more school marshals and improve the program, and one of the bullet points was remove the firearm storage requirement for school marshals who are in direct contact with students. You know what that tells me? That tells me, well, we want the marshal there, but he's got to lock his gun up. So when something happens, he's got to go run and get his gun, man.
Well, let me tell you, remember 911. Everybody remembers 911.
Yes.
Okay? And I was a brigade commander in the Texas Army National Guard. We were making the decision about putting armed soldiers in our airports. Okay? And our discussion and our debate with the lawyers, and I'm not picking on lawyers per se, it's just part of the process.
Yeah, don't pick on them too hard because they sponsor some of the show.
I understand.
Okay.
Part of the discussion that we had that weekend after 911 to determine about putting armed soldiers in the airports was whether or not we were going to give them ammunition. Okay?
That's crazy.
Which was ridiculous.
It is.
And so we ended up making a decision of putting armed soldiers in the airports, and I had, I think, 6 airports that I was responsible for. We put a sand barrel outside each airport, and what we did is we used soldiers of the rank of buck sergeant or above, actually putting them in the airports with loaded weapons, and we did do that. But I can tell you, even then, under the crisis we were under, it was a serious debate from the military standpoint. So I just share with you that's an experience that I had. I thought it was kind of an interesting discussion.
Yeah, very interesting. And for the sake of time here, I'm going to move on to another point that's kind of funny too, or I look at it a certain way. And it says, once again on the governor's plan, provide active shooter and emergency response training. And one of the bullet points here that raises my eyebrow is the Texas School Safety Center will deliver a workshop-based course that allows for hands-on application of high-quality planning practices. You know what I see when I read that? I see PowerPoint. And I cannot stand PowerPoint presentations. People are so focused on writing notes down, not paying attention to the speaker, listening the meat and potatoes of what they're trying to say. That's why when I give my license to carry class, I do not do PowerPoint. I get in your face, I make you remember it, and then the other part, hands-on application, I think what they're talking about is hands-on the paperwork. I mean, what kind of actual hands-on training are they going to do? And so once again, it goes back to my thought process of micromanagement and making it look good, but actually not doing anything.
Interesting. Yeah, I I agree. I mean, PowerPoint by death is something I certainly I don't like to get a whole lot of. I do know that there is active shooter training that has been going on in some of our schools. And I've talked to our superintendents and administrators. This year alone, I've had multiple conference calls, and I've been on all the campuses to meet with our schools and to have this discussion about what are you doing, what can you do, what will you do, what are you unable to do as far as providing security on your campus. And I've done that in Bill County with the 9 school districts that we have.
Hugh, because we're running out of time, let's finalize it by this. Why don't you, if you want, recap everything here to the best of your ability, or what you want to say. Tell us something you're doing, or promote something, whatever. But let's close it out with that, and we'll say goodbye at the end of it.
Well, I guess in closing, let me just say that I believe that this debate is going to continue. We're not going to solve anything here in the short run. I think it's going to be in the next legislative session. I'm not anticipating a special session to be called by the governor. I think that any attempt to address our individual freedoms probably is not going to go very far. And I think we're going to have this discussion over the next 4 or 5 months before session starts, and we'll have a better idea come November, December timeframe of what we may or may not do in addressing these issues.
I'll tell you what, though, I want to compliment the governor. He's doing a lot to make it look like he's doing a lot without really doing a lot. So that's pretty good politics.
Yes, sir.
And I meant that as a compliment, because I know it's so difficult to do it. You got to make a lot of people happy, and there's some points in there that you can actually do, and there's other points in there it's a feel good thing, and I totally get it. I know both sides. You gotta act a certain way and do certain things. So, but Hugh, I can't thank you enough for taking time out of your busy day and schedule to come on the show. It's always been a pleasure to talk with you on the radio and talking to you in person. So until I see you again or talk to you again, you take care, be safe, and enjoy what you're doing out there.
All right, y'all enjoy the weekend. Thank you very much, Matt.
All right, buddy, take care. Trey, let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll have the awesome Master Cindy Key here. I think she's going to be here, and she's going to do some terrible things to me to show you how to protect yourselves. So we'll see you on the other side.
Central Texas.